Today we're bringing you a preview of my father's work. Well, not my father's work. He actually doesn't have anything to show unless you count me, I guess.
For the love of God, just get through the intro.
Today we're bringing you a preview of my father's work from Renegade Game Studios. It's a board game. Not me.
Vincent, get back here this instant!
Thank you. Oh, I love you too. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. Thank you.
All the components seen in this video are of the prototype variety and don't necessarily represent the final look of the product. With that said, let's get back to the preview. My Father's Work is a 2 to 4 player competitive worker placement that takes place in a dreary gothic horror story setting and has players sacrificing little wooden frogs to fuel their teleportation machines. Confused? Don't worry, it'll all make sense later. Or not, what the hell do I know? It's all madness. And madness, my friends, is the name of the game. You see, in My Father's Work, well not My Father's Work, but the game entitled My Father's Work.
Okay, we get it. Nobody actually thinks we're here to talk about your father's work. You'd have to be insane to think that.
Insane? Insane? Don't you mean mad? As I was saying, in My Father's Work, players take on the role of mad scientists creating crazy experiments in their creepy old estate just outside of town in an effort to complete their father's masterwork. Or in layman's terms, build cool stuff and get more points than the competition before the locals run you out of town with pitchforks for window shopping for spare parts over at the old cemetery. Now, although your goal at the start might be to complete your father's masterwork, you don't actually need to complete it to win. Although completing it does help because they are worth like a whack load of points. But you do have options. And if there's anything that My Father's Work offers a lot of, it's options. Want to complete an experiment? Sure. Which one? Want to record some knowledge for future generations? Knock yourself out, but what do you think they're going to need to know? Want to donate to the church and help build a hospital? Of course you do. What kind of monster wouldn't? The kind that needs a dungeon installed in their basement. That's who.
You're a monster.
Hey, when body parts are hard to come by, you grow your own. That's just good economics. Want to go to town to pick up a few things? Okay. When, where, and what do you want? And with whom will you be retrieving said items? Because all of that does matter. Hell, you could even join a cult. Or not. It's completely up to you. But membership does have its privileges. Completing experiments is one of the primary mechanics in My Father's Work, and doing so will earn you rewards like materials and knowledge that you'll need to complete bigger and better experiments. But certain experiments will attract the wrong kind of attention, which will change the way people in town look at you, and possibly even cause enough unrest to spur an angry mob. And if those two factors ever meet on this path, well, you won't be allowed back into town, which will make gathering the necessary materials difficult. But lucky for you, a donation to the church goes a long way to erasing your sins. Now, you wouldn't be much of a mad scientist if you didn't go a little nutty now and then, but losing your grip isn't always a bad thing. This here is your insanity track, and certain actions you take will cause you to travel up this track. The higher you go, the more insane you are. But there are benefits. You see, as you lose your mind, you earn compulsion, which if satisfied can earn you some points, but if left to fester can leave you maladjusted, which not only causes effects like preventing you from recording knowledge, but can cost you points at the end of the game, just like real life. Completing your father's work is no easy task, hence why you have 3 generations to do so. It works like this. Each generation is made up of 3 rounds: your early life, midlife, and later years. Once you run through one generation, the next one starts, but they start from scratch. Mostly. At the start of each new generation, players are reduced to their basic crew: yourself, your spouse, and a caretaker. All the resources you've collected are disposed of, and most of your unfinished and even finished experiments are lost to time. But knowledge is forever. Unless you don't write it down, then it's gone too. You see, one of the actions you can take in your estate is to record knowledge. So any knowledge that you gather in one generation will carry over to the next, which is very helpful when completing experiments. Like, very helpful. I can't stress that enough. Write it down. Another thing that carries over is your estate, and any improvements you've done to it carry over as well. It's just handed down from generation to generation. Upgrading your estate has a wide variety of rule-breaking bonuses, like the Hedge Maze, which gains you 1 VP at the end of each round. The Clean Ledger, which gains you $1 right away, and then $2 at the start of every generation. And the Moat, which offers a whopping 10 victory points to your final score. And which ones you apply to your estate is completely up to you. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that who you select to do what matters. Let me explain. Your workers are made up of you, your spouse, servants, and caretakers. Here's a quick breakdown of what makes them different. Your caretaker is limited to actions in your estate. Your spouse and servants can also take estate actions, but most of those actions are so disturbing that they run away in fright after performing them. So instead, I prefer to send them into town to pick up a few things, and the more of them I send, the more of that thing I get. Now, you yourself can do any of these actions, but as a bonus, when you take an action in town, you get to take that action twice. Okay, so by now you should have a good idea of what My Father's Work is all about. Place workers, get stuff, then spend that stuff to build experiments to get more stuff. But that's not all. There are 2 major aspects of this game that I haven't even touched on yet. One of them being the scenario box. Scenario boxes are just that. They're boxes that hold scenarios for you to play through. Or more accurately, the components needed to play through those scenarios. I only have one that came with a prototype, but if everything goes well with the Kickstarter, which I have no doubt that it will, there will be at least 2 others for you to experience. Each scenario is completely different. New story, new situations, and new things to do. You get the idea. So when you get your copy, pick the box you want to play and enjoy. Now, I know what you're thinking. 3 scenarios doesn't sound like a whole lot. And if each of them were just a straight line story from A to B, I'd agree with you. But it's not. My Father's Work is a complex web of events strung together by your actions and presented in a robust chronicling of your life's work. So how you move through it will determine how those pieces connect. And how they connect will alter your story, gameplay, and overall experience. And to tie this all together is the other thing I've yet to mention, the app. My Father's Work will have an app that directs your experience as you play through the game. Not only will it track your story using the name you assign yourself, it'll guide you to adjust aspects of the game based on your actions. Some of those effects won't be evident right away, but you don't have to worry about remembering anything because the app will do it for you. It'll even ask you questions like, how many times did you do this? Or how much of that stuff did you collect? That sort of thing. And all your answers will have an impact on future generations. Or maybe they won't. I don't know, because there are way more possibilities than I will ever experience. So your story is bound to be different than mine. So in short, My Father's Work is a worker placement gothic horror story that changes based on your actions. Now, if this sounds like a game you'd be interested in, check them out on Kickstarter. Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.